Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I've had a good couple of days of late and hopefully you've seen my review of Bo-Katan Kryze, Mandalorian, head of the Owl Squadron or Night Squadron or whatever, and I picked her up, gone into all that with her on the channel, and I picked this guy up as well. And this is a close-up of him, and you may be familiar with this guy if you've watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that is Major Arnold Toht, I think it is, T-O-H-T, and he was going for $10.99, and having looked at him and posed him before I got him on camera, I want to pick up the rest, because with each figure you get a part of the ark that was featured in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Ark of the Covenant, and I've got 2 panels of that ark, so if I pick up 2 more figures I should be able to complete that and get the effect of Indiana Jones there. And I love this guy picking up the ark with his friend Salah, and that's a figure that I'm chasing at the moment. But this is a nice duo when you put them side by side, and I'm going to pose him out, show you some things with him. And as you can see, one of his accessories is that kind of German-like Luger pistol. I don't think it's a Luger, but it's a German type pistol, and he works for the secret police, and he is trying to stop anyone finding out that they are in fact looking for the Ark, so they can use it in the war against the Allies. And just before we move on to the first pose, I'll just show you the boxes, because I do keep my boxes, and I do love the artwork. So that's the boxes those figures came in. So we'll get him in to his first pose, this guy. I might pose out Indiana Jones, not sure yet, but we're going to concentrate on him. So here's his next pose. Quite like that pose. Yes, you can actually grip that fedora, and it is good that you can pose him like this without the fedora. And I wish they'd have done that for that guy, because it would have been good to have his whole head showing at times, which he does in the film, and then have him being able to hold his fedora like Arnold Toht, Major Arnold Toht, and he's holding his pistol with his hat, and I do like that effect. So what I've done is posed Indiana Jones slightly different, but I'm going to just move it on to the next pose. So here's your next one. I've taken off the coat, the trench coat, and I quite like that. And that blue round thing is apparently his Nazi badge, I think. But yeah, he looks alright without that trench coat, but we'll have a close-up on that. And it's not bad detail at all, gives that leather look, so you can pose him with or without this trench coat. And my Indiana Jones there, I've changed out his gesture hand for a fighting fist. So those Buddhas at the back there, I had them in my last review of Indiana Jones. I think I titled it Indiana Jones in the Temple of Buddha. Maybe this is part 2. I don't know if I title it that. but I certainly do like what I'm looking at camera so far. So let's put him with his hat on, but without the trench coat. So I've got him now into a more dynamic pose, and I'm not sure if he actually does anything like this in the sequence in which he goes to Nepal and questions Marion Ravenwood. And I can remember that line when she says nervously, as he's holding a hot poker to her face, she says, please, I'll tell you everything. And he says, I know you will. And then Indiana Jones bursts into the cabin, and there's an epic shootout. And he is in that shootout. Not bad. And there's Indiana Jones in his pose. But I'm going to come across and take the hat off this figure just to see what that looks like. So yeah. It looks okay. And what I like about this figure is when the wave of Indiana Jones figures came out, and it was to build the Ark of the Covenant, I wasn't too fussed about getting him. But yesterday when I opened him up, he's a lot weightier, I think, in hand than the Indiana Jones figure I've got. And I'm not saying he's done better, but seems to be a bit more about him when you can do this with or without the hat and not use that trench coat. But talking about the Ark, that's why I'm going to complete the wave and get that Builder Ark figure built. And that's the 2 panels plus the 2 cherubs. I think they're called cherubs that go on top of the lid of the Ark. So I think I need 3 more figures to get that done. But no rush, they're out there now and they're dropping in price. So let's change out the pose on Major Arnold Topt. So here's the next one. I'll come to Indiana Jones first. Crouching position, got both his fighting fists in. Not bad. Might finish with him with the bullwhip for the last one, but like that dynamic. And let's come over to Topt, Major Topt, and there's a close-up there, and as if you remember, on that hand there's the imprint of the Staff of Ra. When he tries to pick it up in the fight out in the cabin in Nepal, it's fallen into the fire and it's red hot, so when he tries to pick it up it burns his hand, and that's why you got that accessory. So that hand accessory in the pistol is the only thing this figure comes with, but it's enough because the figure overall is very good and well made. And I am inspired now, as you can see, to get that Ark finished. And back to Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford, and Ronald Lacey plays Major Arnold Topt. And he was in a lot of war films and various programs like Randall and Hawkkirk, The Persuaders, The Avengers, those sort of programs. But I remember him fondly in a series called Porridge, starring Ronald Barker, or Ronnie Barker, and he played one of the inmates who was a bit of a squealer and a telltale. But he's a really good actor, and he played the role well in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So let's see him without the trench coat before we wind it up. So Indiana Jones, slightly different pose. Not too bad, but let's get to this guy without the trench coat. Another close up on that hand with the imprint burnt into it by the medallion. And technically that other hand there can hold the pistol, but I couldn't be asked to fiddle with it. So I'm going to leave what they call the last or the best till last. That's what I should have said. Yes, I'm going to leave you with the best for last with this figure. One more close up on that face, and I'll show you why. So let's come out and across with the last bit of this review. So let's come straight to the man in question, and this is what I tried to say earlier, the best till last. And look at that head sculpt, and at this level you can't complain really. Try not to get too much glare so you can see the detail of the flesh melting with the glasses and the blood. He's in absolute pain, and I will pose him with the trench coat on and the hat, but I think he looks best like this. And then I've got in my imaginary scenario, Indiana Jones is there witnessing this with the bullwhip and the pistol, quite like that, looking intent, or should I say looking intently at that figure there. That's a nice angle shot there, really like it. So that face came with this figure because at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones is tied up with Marion Ravenwood, and the army is there with some cameras to film the opening of the Ark of the Covenant with Belosh, played by Paul Freeman, as the Jewish architect who's going to perform the ceremony to open it alongside this guy and another guy, I forgot his name. And then the ark is opened and this immense heavenly power comes out, and then anyone who bears witness to this power instantly becomes like this and is destroyed and returned to dust. And it's a good ending to the first film. I love them all, even Dial of Destiny. And as I've grown old with those movies, kind of looked at it a bit sadly, that last one, but it was good. So what we'll do now is we'll put the hat on the figure to see what that looks like. So I've taken the bullwhip out of Indiana Jones's hand and put the idol in, which is in the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he finally acquires that idol and is running from a giant big round rolling stone. But I've got him looking at this guy, and there he is with the hat on. I don't mind which pose he comes in like this. If he has the hat on, he still looks good, it adds to the dynamic. But if you want to leave his hat off, you can. Let's see if we can get the trench coat on him. I don't know if I'll be able to do it with these arms raised like that though. We'll have a look. Yeah, the coat sort of gets onto the figure, but it's not secure. But that's the look that you're getting. Let me take the hat off actually and see what that looks like. So yeah, taking off the fedora, the hat. Yeah, and I do like that. Slightly reposed Indiana Jones. But it's all about this guy. Okay, let's do the last one then and call it a day. So this is the very last pose, guys, and this is how he's going into my display alongside Indiana Jones, and I like that. But that last one with that head sculpt is something I'm going to do with him. If I get two, I won't have to, but I'm going to be putting that melted head sculpt on at some point. Probably when I get the rest of the figures to finish off the arc, create some kind of sort of scene with his melted face sculpt. But it's a good looking figure, $10.99, that's a good deal. These figures are about 25 quid, and really like it. And then this is Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, and this is the pose I shall basically put him back, well, keep him in this pose and put him back into my display with. So I'm going to put that idol back in his hand. He was posed like that to begin with when I first got him, but I haven't had the idol in his hand for a while, so I'm going to keep that pose. But let's finish with this guy, because I had a few days that went better than normal, hanging out with my mate, check out Ray Ray's collection, and was privileged to do some filming there. But I got this figure and my Mandalorian figure, and before that my Hydra Captain America, and they were all going relatively cheap, so I was pleased about that. And this review, from what I'm seeing on camera, I'm liking, so I hope you enjoy it yourselves. So on that note, I'll say thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you again next time.